talk about the art of residencies, and we're going to have 6 artists speaking with you and talking about their residency and how that goes. I'd like to welcome Simone. Simone, you're the first capital correct. Simone Johnson was the recipient of our Art Space Sydney residency, and Simone's going to have a talk to us for the next 6 months.
Thanks, guys. I was very much hoping that I would be first, but so I recently did the Art Space residency in Woolloomooloo, Sydney, and it was actually the first residency I'd done, and I was actually convinced to, decided to apply for it after coming to one of these, because I didn't really know much about the application process and was a little bit nervous about applying prior to that. So yeah, it was actually a very good session. But anyway, so it's a pretty informal talk, so if anyone's got any queries, let me know. But let's go to the first slide. So I thought I'd just put a couple of images of previous work up, just so it gave you guys a bit of context about my prior work. So in the past, my work has always dealt with ideas of like private and public space and how people interact within these quite kind of blurred boundaries, or how they don't interact, I guess, and also how we remember spaces that we're passing through on a fairly regular basis. If we realise more when we're going through a space for the first time, or if we kind of are more familiar with it passing through several times. So this was kind of the context that my work had been existing previously, and I thought largely that this is what I'd be dealing with when I went to Sydney, and that was largely what my my application was based around. But it actually changed a lot when I got there, and that kind of all went out the window a little bit. So it's an extension of this, but quite different work now. So this is the space that I had while I was in Sydney, so I felt very lucky. It was a pretty amazing studio. So this is in Woolloomooloo. It was a mezzanine level, obviously, so there's like a little toilet and bathroom out the back, a little kitchen just on the side here, and then obviously the bed area and everything upstairs, and then just a big open plan studio. And in the building there was actually, a total of 10 studios. 4 of them were residential like mine, and then 6 of them were just live workspaces. Yeah, so it was a really fantastic mix of other artists and people floating around. And the next slide just kind of shows you a bit of an idea of where we were. So this was the Tilbury, which I was actually trying to put a video in here for you guys, and I couldn't get it to happen. But every morning at about 5:30, 6 a.m, I'm not a morning person at all, so it was a challenging experience. But every single morning, a truck pulls up in the alleyway out the back, beeps for about an hour, and then one by one bottles are like hand-picked and like thrown into recycling for about an hour. It's very painful. And I actually spoke to a couple of previous artists who have had the same residency, and it was happening then, and it's like this ongoing love-hate relationship with this pub. So it was hilarious. And then that's the front of the building. So I was actually facing out, that's out my window, and then that's actually the boardwalk that fronts into Sydney Harbour and the crazy area that is Woolloomooloo. So it was a really interesting mix of socio-economics and yeah, just a really interesting dynamic place to be surrounded by. So this is actually what I stumbled into, which was fantastic. I wasn't really sure what to expect. I didn't know if there'd be any interaction with other artists, or if, how much interaction I'd have with other people and that sort of thing. And I was completely amazed and blown away by the experience that I had and the artists that I was there with. They were fantastic. So Ruth Madison was from regional New South Wales. Santina Amato was from Melbourne and has recently moved to New York. Amber Boardman is originally from New York and has recently moved to Sydney. And then there was Kadeem Ali, who's from Pakistan/Sydney now. And also Yu Chu, who's from Taiwan. So yeah, pretty amazing selection of artists. And I was really lucky. Everyone was actually really, I think, just wanting the same experience. So everyone wanted to do a lot of work and spend a lot of time in the studio and go to lots of openings and exhibitions, but also just have a really fun social time. So there was lots of dinners and lots of studio critiques and lots of outings together, which was amazing. Pasta night. So yeah, we actually, all of the girls that I was there with were vegetarian, which was hilarious because I'm not, but it was a really fun experience. Lots of cooking lessons, lots of pasta making and things like that. So this is us making traditional kind of Italian pasta from scratch, which was very fun. The next one just takes into my studio. This is kind of partway through. So Yeah, I think for me it was a really interesting experience given the context of my practice previously. I thought I'd kind of spend most of my time traipsing around the city's streets and documenting madly and kind of playing with those interactions and that sort of thing, and it actually changed a lot. And I think it was kind of spun on from two conversations that happened just prior to me leaving, and they kind of really highlighted themselves, I guess, when I arrived in Sydney at this space. So I actually helped a kind of friend of mine move house, and he's a collector, so he had this really profound, beautiful collection of works, and it just kind of, that whole experience really highlighted the emotional ties we have with space and how kind of quickly they shift and dissolve and change. And so that was one thing. And then the second thing was actually a conversation I had with my grandparents, which led us all to kind of collectively draw a plan of their old house from memory. And again, it kind of just highlighted the weird emotional ties, but also the really kind of distorted, strange way we all remember and perceive space, particularly domestic space. And yeah, just how, you know, distorted the scale was for each of us, and how I thought I had a really profound memory of the space and realised I only remembered about 2 of the rooms, and thought the objects in those rooms were massive because I was a child at the time, and that sort of things. And even they were very kind of conflicted about the actual scale and the perception of the rooms and that sort of thing. So those two experiences were quite profound. And then walking into this space for the first time, I was pretty much struck by how quickly, nearly done. But yeah, how quickly I identified with that space. So that's where my work is kind of shifting into now. So I'll just flip through the rest of them. So this is a studio open day that we had, which was a really great day. This is some examples of just work within the studio. These are kind of just preliminary drawings for ideas and things like that. This is some of the more finalised work that I'm currently working on, and I'm working towards a show at Paper Mountain shortly, which some of this work will be in. This is some stuff that was kind of like on my window for a while and kind of interacting with space across the road from us, which is the Tilbury and that sort of thing. Sydney Fires. And then this is the last slide. And I think one of the biggest things I got out of my experience was, yeah, the interaction with the other artists. We've remained really great friends from that, and just in terms of kind of gaining regular studio visits and feedback, and that's been a huge thing for me, and it's, yeah, it really helped my practice, and it's something that I think I'm going to try to maintain, obviously, with my work now. And I actually went to Tassie and Sydney quickly afterwards, and this is off one of the bins at Mona, which is one of the most amazing places I've ever been. So I just thought, you know, everything there is so considered, and that's their bin. So I just thought that was like a really cool play. Anyway, that's it. Thanks.
Stop there and take any. Does anyone have any questions for Simone that they would like to ask them, please?
Simone.
Hi.
Are you from Perth originally?
I am, yes.
And that idea of mapping urban spaces that you had before you went to Sydney, I'm not sure if it's the first time you went to Sydney or not, but when you had your studio there, do you think the city, because it's so different to Perth in terms of the size and the pace of it, is that what modified your work, or was it just simply having a studio outside of that?
I think it was a bit of both. I mean, the application that I had done was obviously some time before the residency actually occurred, so I was already starting to think of a few other things by then anyway. But yeah, I think it was a mixture of, you know, the couple of conversations I had, and then the actual feeling I had walking into that space that was, you know, empty and blank and devoid of any of my things, and how quickly I identified with it. And yeah, that in correlation with the with those conversations kind of just really triggered something for me, I think. And I don't know, I feel like it's quite an extension of that. It's still an idea of, I'm still thinking of a lot of the works as mapping space, but it's more kind of about private domestic space as opposed to the boundary between the public and private. And yeah, so the focus has just shifted. But as well, I do know, I'm not super familiar with Sydney, but my sister lives there, so I have actually been to Sydney a few times before. So I don't know, maybe that's another thing. I kind of walked in and had this really dynamic studio working environment with the other artists that were there. So I was kind of ended up spending a lot more time in the studio than I maybe would have in another situation. I don't know, but yeah, don't know if that answers it. Hi.
Simone, was it hard to, when you got there, was it something that, could you just get straight into work, or was there a period of time where you kind of felt discombobulated, or did it change as you got into it?
I think it changed. Like, I think initially I kind of got there and was a little bit nervous about like what I was going to be making, and you know, and it's not outcome based, so which is a great thing because you have lots of time to play with materials and play with ideas and not really have to expect a final product at the end, which was great. But I can't remember what the start of the question was. But yeah, I don't know. I think for me, yeah. Does that answer it at all?
Yeah, no, it does. I guess it was just I was thinking for myself, imagine going there and then you're there and there's the expectation of a whole bunch of things that are unknown, and whether you can engage with it, if it is immediate or if there's like
yeah, I think it was immediate in some respects. Like I was definitely straight away be in a new space. So for me, I always start with documentation. Like that's always my working process, and that was obviously a huge part of it. But yeah, it did really change. Like the first couple of weeks, I started playing around with the wall text pretty much straight away because that's just kind of the response I had to that space. But yeah, I don't know. The first few weeks, I started doing a lot of my older kind of work that I had done previously, and thought that that's what I would be doing, and it just sort of organically sort of shifted. So. Yeah.
We can let Simone escape.